Hello, 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 and welcome to another fantastic episode of Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion. Before we get started, let me first remind you that we are covered by the BIPCOT No Government License, which allows for the use and reuse of this podcast by anyone and everyone except for governments and the bludgies thereof. You can learn more about that at bipcot.org. That is BIPCOT.org. We're also protected by Brandenburg v. Ohio, 1969, which ruled that the government cannot punish inflammatory speech unless that speech is, quote, directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action and is likely to incite or produce such action. Therefore, everything said here on Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion is entirely hypothetical.
Yes, we only do things in Minecraft here.
Nobody ever listens to us anyway, so
Actually,
people do actually listen to us, which I'm still kind of mystified about, to be perfectly honest with you.
It might have something to do with our abject, professionalism.
Well, yeah, I mean, we are the single most professional podcast on the interwebs right now.
We do everything in one take. I mean, come on.
Joe Rogan wishes he could be this professional.
Let's see. We're getting like over 100 views on the YouTube link.
That's freaking fantastic, man. That's
like,
awesome.
Over like this, like the last one we did, we got 135 on the YouTube. Why people are watching these mugs, I have no idea.
Man, it's because we talk about the patches and the t-shirts and stuff, and they're like, I want to see that. That's what it is. But hey, thank you guys so much for actually paying attention to us. Like, a little bit of validation is kind of nice occasionally. That doesn't come from me. I mean, I do my daily affirmations. I stare into the mirror and I'm like, and gosh darn it, people like me. But it it helps when there's other people who actually want to listen to us.
But if you're listening to us, or more importantly, if you're watching this on YouTube, go reevaluate your life.
what you made that you're about to spend a couple hours staring at these faces. I mean, although they may not be staring, because you could, if you're paying for YouTube Premium like I do, I can lock my phone and just have a YouTube video playing audio only.
True.
That's true.
True. So, or you just listen to the MP3 in that case.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could, but why?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, is it possible in any way, size, shape, or form that somebody could accidentally trip over this on YouTube?
Oh, there's no way the algorithm suggests this to anybody. Are you kidding me? Have we been demonetized? I actually don't know. I assume we've been demonetized.
I have no idea, because the page that it's, or the channel that is posted on YouTube is the Voluntary Agrarian, which is Mark's page. So I'm an admin on it, but I don't have any of that sort of information.
Oh, well, see, I feel like every single video has probably gotten demonetized anyway. And if you get demonetized, you never show up in suggested, like, also videos on the side. Yeah. So I'm assuming we probably don't show up in that at all, because we talk about guns and we're anti-government and the Googles.
We got one of those. We got one of those conversations today. We got two of those conversations, because we're also talking about HR 127, which I think every podcast so far has talked about HR 127. But I guess it's our turn. We're gonna Anarchy Among Friends HR 127.
And that's not even the only one. Like, I had posted.
No, it's not the only one. There's 7 or 8.
Yeah, there's a few that are on there. There's 127. There's I want to say it was one. Oh God, I don't even remember now. I'd have to go back and look through the Telegram chat and look at it, because I posted a picture that showed the list, and I'd have to go back through and find it, and nobody wants to do that. So we're just gonna assume, though.
Yeah, we mentioned HR 127, so we're just gonna start talking about HR 127.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
Before we do that, allow me to mention something quick.
What's that?
There is an awful lot of outrage right now on social media as it pertains to the officiating going on in Tampa Bay.
Sheila Jackson Lee is the Tom Brady of the Senate.
Yeah. You don't even want to hear about her. No one gives a shit about her. You just want it all to stop.
any man that eats avocado ice cream is not to be trusted.
Avocado
Or celebrated. Yes. Tom Brady's cookbook had recipe for avocado ice cream.
And he regularly eats avocado toast.
See, I thought I hated him before, but now that I'm hearing this, I hate him so much more.
And his cookbook also came with a wooden cover. Instead of like regular cardboard, it was wood.
Why?
Because Brady. I don't know.
Man, fuck that guy so much.
So, let's just jump into this. It's we're gonna cover the FPC link because we like FPC, Firearms Policy Coalition. Because I don't know if you guys noticed they're kind of savage on social media.
Oh, dude, I love FPC.
I know you remember, right?
I am a member of the Firearms Policy Coalition. So
yeah, I was gonna join them with that last stimulus check, but I needed food instead.
Oh, food, supporting grassroots, anti-gun stuff. They were doing some good giveaways at the time too, man. I'm telling you.
So HR 127, Sheila Jackson Lee, blah blah blah, and their position is strongly opposed. That's putting it politely. But it's the summary is establishes a nationwide gun registry that is searchable by the general public, mandates licensing to own or possess a firearm, and requires a psychological evaluation prior to obtaining such a license, and institutes magazine and gun bans. Oh, and there is no grandfather clause.
Oh, yep. It instantly turns every American who owns stuff into a felon.
And even if you currently own firearms now, completely legal. If you fail to pass their mental evaluation, you would become a felon for not turning in your firearms. And like all of the things that she talks about, it's like 5 to 20 years in federal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's like serious fucking time, man.
So, but HR 127, one of the most sweeping attacks on your Second Amendment right ever proposed. It would establish a publicly searchable gun registry containing your most private information. So you get in an argument with your neighbor. Your neighbor can look you up on this registry and see if you have guns. And if you have guns, guess what? They're going to call and try to get a red flag warrant on you. So, yeah, let that sink in. Second requires
what could possibly go wrong with it.
Yeah. Second requires you to petition an anti-gun attorney general for a license to possess firearms and ammunition. Yes, in order to exercise your natural given, God-given, whatever title you want to use. Your freedom to choose your means of self-defense or recreation or food procurement. You have to ask the government, you have to beg the government for permission to get a license to own these things.
You know, and this is the same thing. This is the same thing that exists right now in a lot of countries. It exists in South Africa, for instance. You have to have a justifiable reason. Now, one of those can be self-defense, and you're allowed a self-defense gun. And then for any others, you have to join, you have to be members of shooting clubs. That's a pretty typical thing for gun laws across the world, that you have to be a member of a specific shooting club to be sponsored by them to get the gun of the type, the license type that you want to buy. So, I want to buy an AR-15. Well, are you a member of a 3-gun club or a 2-gun club? Are you a sports shooting club? Because most of those countries also ban using semi-automatic weapons to go hunting. So hunting isn't going to be a legitimate use. You need something. You have to beg and that is each and every gun. And you are only allowed so many of any given type.
Yep. Let's see. Force you to obtain firearms insurance from the federal government at a cost of $800 per year. For the record, $800 divided by 12 months comes out to 66.6666666.
Oh, look at that. Boy, that's a completely unrelated coincidence.
Yes. Bans numerous rifles, AR pistols, shotguns, 50 or greater ammo, and any magazine with a capacity over 10 rounds.
Yep.
So it's essentially what I'm hearing so far is everything on this list that this bill does is a golden pig's worth of leftist talking points.
Oh yeah, it gets okay. We're gonna go into the. They got a little bit more detail on it, and some of this will. Okay. Firearm registration that is accessible by federal, state, and local governments, including the military, even the general public. The system will track the make, model, and serial number of all firearms or owners, the dates they were acquired, even when they are being stored. The system will also track firearms loans, including the ID of the loan recipient and for how long it is being loaned. The bill applies retroactively, so current firearms owners will have 3 months to supply their gun information to the federal government from the bill's effective date. The system is so detailed that the government might as well actually attach a tracking device to you and your guns. What's more, the registry will function as a shopping list for criminals. If you're lucky, anti-gunners will simply use the information to dox and harass you. But if you're unlucky, criminals browsing for the property to see who steal from next, blah, 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 yeah. And, you could be held criminally liable for reporting your property stolen.
Yep.
So I just want to point out, and granted, it really doesn't matter because it's the government and they're going to do whatever the fuck they want to do anyway. But it seems like the very first part of this and 99% of this bill flies right in the face of established jurisprudence with DC versus Heller.
Oh yeah, well, they don't care about established prudence though.
Yeah, no, do you think they care? I mean, they don't care.
I know, we all know they don't care. I'm just pointing out the obvious that, with the established jurisprudence, and then they go and try to throw something like this out there, it flies right in the face of everything that's currently held and established by federal courts. So, yeah. I mean, even if they got it rammed through, I don't think it would survive, but who knows?
Well, the thing you got to remember too is like this is the stuff that we knew they were going to do. Like they straight up said before Biden took office, we're going to do this. This is coming. This is what we're going to do. I mean, that was like they had the stuff like pre-submitted, ready to go.
Oh, they had a half dozen, right, that were pre-submitted.
Yeah. This one was submitted on like day 1 of the calendar year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. I've been digging, trying to actually find my list of the particular bills, all of the bills that were submitted, and I'm not finding it right now. So
127. Possession of gun or ammo without a license, 15 to 25 years in prison, plus a $75,000 to $150,000 fine, or both. Transfer of firearm or ammo to an unlicensed person, 10 to 15 years in prison with a $50,000 to $75,000 fine, or both. Give guns or ammo to an unlicensed person, 5 to 10 years in prison with a $30,000 to $50,000 fine, or both. Loan guns or ammo to an unlicensed person, you're looking at a $5,000 to $10,000 fine. So
yeah, and I see here as part of the licensing scheme, you have to apply for the license, then you have to submit your psychological examination to determine your mental fitness, and then you have to have your family members, including former spouses, be interviewed about you.
How many ex-wives are gonna go, oh no, they shouldn't have guns?
Oh, literally all of mine are gonna I mean, all of mine.
I'm on the fence as to whether or not my ex would fall into that category or not, but
and I just want to point out that if you're literally putting, so here's what's happening is you're guaranteeing that there's going to be a massive black market. Obviously, there's going to be a huge black market.
Fantastic.
It's going to be glorious. And at that point, if having an unlicensed firearm is already going to throw me in prison for that amount of time, well, there's really no reason not to have that unlicensed firearm have a happy button. So I might as well switch it up.
Short barrel, happy button, all sorts of stuff.
I might as well at that point, because it's exactly the same amount of jail time one way or another, and at least this way I get to have a little bit more fun, number one. Number two, if I wanted to buy a weapon legally at that point, it can be stopped by my ex, which means that you've created a black market for me to obtain weapons, and now you're going to present an incentive for my exes to not be a problem.
It can even go further than that. Like they can call your ex, employers.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're guaranteeing enormous amounts of conflict here.
I mean, that's your last employer did not end well.
Right.
So they can call up them and be like, "Oh no, that Andrew guy, yeah, we had to escort him out with security."
Well, they do that all.
He scared us.
Right.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. They posted armed guards.
Well, I mean, there was one job I got. There was one job I got let go from, where standing outside my manager's office were 2 Unalaska police officers, and they walked me to the front door and to my vehicle in the parking lot to make sure I didn't do anything stupid.
Nope.
It's like, what?
I wonder if they could go so far as to pull up your service records.
Oh, guaranteed they would.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they, and the thing is this is basically what this is, and what this has been used as in a lot of countries, like the UK, for instance, Ireland, for whatever good it does. All these other countries across Europe and stuff, and across Africa.
Isn't today the anniversary of the Troubles? The start of the Troubles?
The opening of the Troubles. It depends on how you define the opening of the Troubles. But and it wasn't that long ago that it was it was Irish Independence Day. Yay! That's when I posted the Patrick and SpongeBob with the burning city behind them, and it was the Brits after the Easter Rising be like, "We did it, Patrick! We saved the library." But what they do is they use that as a way to just basically not give firearms licenses to anybody, and so no one can get any guns, and so it's heavily restricted. South Africa is probably really the closest analog, legal wise, to this bill.
It's the anniversary of the Downing Street mortar attack. The IRA launched 3 homemade mortar shells. To Den Downing Street, the headquarters of the British government, in an attempt to assassinate Prime Minister John Major and his cabinet, who were meeting to discuss the Gulf War.
That gun control's working out real well for us. They fired mortars,
homemade
mortars, yes, and they're actually relatively destructive.
Yeah, slightly.
What Ireland really needs is common sense car bomb control. But no, so like South Africa is the most analogous, legality wise, to what this bill is proposing. It's very, very close. And one of the interesting things about what's happened since South Africa started doing all of these gun law things, which, fun fact, didn't actually start until after apartheid ended. But anyway, yeah. But not until the communists took over. Look at that. Hey. Zimbabwe, same way.
Well, I mean, we could talk about the gun control and ethnic cleansing that Lenin had, but that's another conversation.
Yeah, and Marx and everything. Yeah, because Marx said, he who controls the weapons, blah blah blah. But anyway, so in South Africa, you get your first license, and your first license is generally for self-defense. It doesn't have to be, but you are allowed, under the law, they allow you to have a gun for self-defense, and it has to be one that they consider valid for self-defense. So
I love that they determine is valid for self-defense.
So like, you can't go out and they won't allow you to go buy like a FAL and call it a self-defense gun. It has to be a pistol. It has to be something concealable, and they'll call it self-defense. So that you're allowed, right? You're allowed the pistol. And that one, I guess, from what I understand, the police issue that. It's generally very, very easy to get, but that's just the one. After that, you have to have club sponsorship. So you have to be members of these shooting clubs. So you have to be a member of a competitive shooting club so you can get sponsorship to buy a FAL, to buy an AR, to buy these other guns. If you want, you want to start doing hunting, well, you need a sponsorship from a hunting club. You need to be part of a hunting club, and then they sponsor you. And then you can go get your bolt action gun, and you can go shoot, because semi-auto isn't allowed for hunting. And and that's the way it works. The funny thing is about South Africa is if you know anything about the slums of South Africa, like around Johannesburg and things,
yep,
guns are everywhere.
Yeah, I think we have a mutual friend or two that is in the Joburg area, and that's what she says.
Yeah, the guns are absolutely everywhere, and they're completely unlicensed. They're totally illegal. They're hauled in across, the wilds of the northern part of South Africa, and basically all the criminals can just get whatever guns they want. It's only the law-abiding citizens that now are stuck with having to choose, like, oh, well, I'll have this one gun. I'll have this one gun. Well, they're running around. The criminals are running around with machine guns, or they got Mac 10s, and they got freaking. I mean, South Africa is also home to like Cobra, to be fair. So, but they're the world's worst gun manufacturer. But
they're worse than High Point.
Oh, they're so bad.
No,
dude.
What is it? Jensen Arms. That's the one. That's the one. That's so bad that I think it's Chicago and someplace else. The attorney generals are suing the ATF for giving Jensen a license. Or Jennings, JA. That was Jennings Arms, and then they changed the name to JA.
Yeah,
and then there's another one that's very similar to that, like Jimenez.
Yeah, Jimenez Arms.
Yeah, I mean they're bad, but like Cobra made the Street Sweeper, the shotgun that has a dubious distinction of being the one shotgun listed specifically as a destructive device in the NFA registry.
And I think we all want one.
I mean, I don't. Are you kidding me? That thing is awful. It's terrible. I fired one of those. It is beyond garbage. There's also the Ladies' Home Companion, which is a like a weird single shot spring-loaded slam fire shotgun.
Yeah.
It's really dumb. I hate that. Everything they made was awful. Everything they made was awful. And really impressively awful. But like, wow.
All right.
Trying?
Okay.
But anyway, so like that's South Africa though. Their gun laws put in place where law-abiding citizens have like two guns and they have to fight for it and fight for it and fight for it and fight for it to even be able to buy one gun. You got to have this sponsorship. You got to join this club. You're going to have to pay membership dues annually to this club. And the moment you lose your membership in that club, you don't get to own that gun anymore. You have to turn it into the police. That is what this bill is essentially setting up in the United States. Mm-hmm. Is, oh, sorry, you only get 3 guns. And 2 of those you're going to have to get sponsorships from clubs. And the reason we want you to be in clubs is because while we're not creating a national registry, we now know exactly who's in what club, which means we know who has what guns.
Yeah, except this bill actually does create a national registry.
Yes, it does. But see, that's the way South Africa did it. Was well, we're not going to create a registry, but we're still going to know everything that you have. So and the fact that there's a psychological evaluation, remember, there's been a lot of news articles that have come out over the past 5 years about how just wanting a gun or feeling the need to have a gun to protect yourself is an indication of psychological instability.
Yeah, I mean, look at the way that they demonize returning vets, right? Everyone.
Oh yeah.
Returning vets, preppers. Constitutionalists, libertarians were named specifically by John Brennan.
Yep, as domestic terrorists.
What did he say? He said white nationalists, white supremacists, libertarians.
Yep.
And then on top of that, you got all these like if you advocate for the Constitution, right, you're on the list. If you a prepper, you're on the list. If you're a fan of firearms, you're on the list. If you have a concealed weapon permit, you're on the list. If you're if you're if you do the First Amendment checks, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, if you're an auditor.
First Amendment audits, you're on the list, right? Again and again, like if.
That's the thing that all these people that are anti-gun that are just like, oh well, no one's trying, and I love that they're always like, no one's coming for your guns. They constantly, right? The past few years, no one's going to be coming for your guns.
Meanwhile, this bill literally says they're coming for your fucking guns.
Yes, they're coming for your guns, right? Like that is what this says. And the reality is, now again, I honestly don't know that this would withstand a Second Amendment challenge. At all.
Yeah, it has to get to the point where it can.
Right, somebody has to have their life literally ruined and dragged through the mud to take this to court and challenge it.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, if there was a Second Amendment challenge, actually, no one needs their life ruined technically, because you could just immediately sue the moment that this is passed because you own guns and it's automatically making you a criminal.
That's true.
So you could automatically just sue them.
I'm pretty sure FPC would be all over that.
FPC, GOA, shit. Even the NRA might actually throw into that.
I doubt it.
I doubt it too, but they might. But I don't know that it would necessarily pass that scrutiny. And considering the current composition of the Supreme Court, I don't know that it almost certainly wouldn't pass that scrutiny. But one, it would take years to get there, and two, millions of dollars, and three, you still got to face the reality that until it actually gets ruled unconstitutional and done away with,
it's going to exist. Yeah,
it's going to exist. You're going to be expected to abide by it. Now, the collapsitarian in me is just like, feeling like Lucy from Enchanted, going, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, come on, do it, do it. Because I know what's going to happen.
And it will happen fast.
It will be glorious, and I will bring popcorn. It will be lovely. I'll bring snacks, maybe some soda. It'll be great.
I have some actual popcorn, not like Jiffy Pop or anything like that. We could definitely start a fire and
we'll have some popcorn. We'll watch the flames rise from a distance. It'll be great.
So, okay, this is a list of potential domestic terrorism characteristics put forth by John Wesley Rawls. I don't know if you guys, he wrote the Patriots series, dystopian fantasy.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, expressions of libertarian philosophies, Second Amendment oriented views, or member of the NRA, survivalist literature.
I have a question. So if you're a member of the NRA, you're considered a part of this domestic terrorist list.
What we think of the NRA and what they think of the NRA are like almost
very different things.
That's true, but that's why I bring it up. So they claim the NRA membership. Yeah. What about like FPC, GOA?
Oh,
are you kidding me?
You're a potential drone target if you're an FPC member.
Yeah, like, and the fact that I have not one, not one, but two memberships to FPC, two different levels of membership from them. Like, I'm a drone target like hell. So
you were a drone target in the first place.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was. Yeah, that's
so. All right. Expressions of libertarian philosophy, such as statements, bumper stickers, or online advocacy, Second Amendment oriented views, such as the NRA or membership, gun club membership, or holding a CCW permit. Purchasing survival literature, or checking them out from the library. Self-sufficiency, such as stockpiling food, ammo, hand tools, or medical supplies. Expressing fears of an economic collapse, buying gold, silver, or cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, holding at me right now?
Holding religious views concerning the Book of Revelations, Apocalypse, or the Antichrist.
Is he looking at me right now?
It's like they wrote this list based upon you and me, Andrew.
Yeah, they just like talk to me and they're just like, all right, so we're
expressing fears of Big Brother or big government. Homeschooling.
Okay, so wait.
No.
Wait. I just need to point out the absurdity of this. Okay, I just really want to call it. So they're going to psychopathically just declare that anybody and everybody who doesn't agree with them is automatically domestic terrorist.
It's absolutely a political purity test.
Yeah, and if you think that makes government dangerous, then you're also
hold on. Declarations of constitutional rights and civil liberties.
Round and round and round and round and round.
Belief in the New World Order conspiracy.
So wait a second. Let's go back to that previous one about belief in constitutional.
Yeah, the founding.
So we're supposed to just completely disregard that magical parchment that is our founding document.
Wait a minute, doesn't the second? Yeah.
Say, please, Big Daddy government, allow me to deep throat that boot for you.
Yeah, they're so essentially what they're saying is that if you're like, wait a minute, but doesn't the first, second, and like Fourth Amendment not allow you to pass that law? And they're like, you are sounding awful counter-revolutionary, comrade.
Yes, right.
This is the equivalent. This is the equivalent of the Soviets going, no, that guy was never part of the leadership. He was never there. You remember Stalin had all those people airbrushed out of the photos over there. That is the equivalent of what's happening here to the Constitution under this.
People engaged in the above activities or mindset may be considered extremist, domestic terrorists, or members of militia groups that exist in our communities. And they are, quote, hiding in plain sight, ready to attack.
Ready to defend.
Defense or attack.
Sometimes the best defense.
It's all a matter of perspective.
Like I said, sometimes the best defense is a good offense, but as the Chiefs are finding out, sometimes that doesn't hold up.
Yeah, that's insane.
So, I'm just saying, domestic terrorist, this dick fed boy.
I posted a link for Steelcase 76239 earlier. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see it. I still have quite a bit of it. But
you can never have too much. And I'm just saying right now, at 50 cents a round, Steelcase is a good buy. 76239 Steelcase at 50 cents a round is a good buy because we know more gun control is coming, and we know what happened last time.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We know how those prices went up.
Well, and I remember it wasn't just last week, wasn't it, that a letter came out from Vista Group that said that retailers should expect a 3 to 15% increase in everything.
And the cost, yeah. So, patch check. What you got?
Me?
I don't have a patch on.
Yeah, I started with this one.
Okay, so you started with the Killdozer and then went to Black Guns Matter.
Yeah, because I couldn't find my Send Bachelors and Come Heavily Armed.
I got a new one on.
Stairs and Violent Disgust. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. Let's see. I didn't lose
shit.
Yes. And that was the other new one. There's a Killdozer.
Hey, that one looks familiar.
I mean, it's at this point, I personally, and I'm sure you guys are, and probably quite a few of our listeners are probably exactly at the same level where pass what you fucking want. Do it. Fucking do it. I dare you.
I've been talking to some people online in regards to they're members of the Mises Caucus of the Libertarian Party. And it's educational, not political for them, but that's kind of the that's the mood I get from them also. It's a bet. Do it. Pass it. I dare you.
Mm-hmm.
Pass it.
And the thing is the people in Washington, especially on the extreme political left, don't seem to understand that, like, when you have pushed us to this point.
When we say extreme political left, we mean the horseshoe theory, extreme political left, where it's so far left up that it's parallel to right, just on a different economic scale.
Yeah, right. They're kind of even. It's just that the right wants to steal my money for a slightly different reason. Yeah. But they're, those people are, like when you say, well, fucking do it then. Fucking do it. I dare you. They're like, oh, well, what are you going to do with guns for? And you remember Biden with his, oh, well, your AR-14, I think is what he said, isn't going to, which was a real gun, fun fact, but it was like a hunting rifle.
Terrible. It's a terrible.
It was a hunting rifle. That I don't think ever actually got built. It was only proposed and was in Armalites literally. But anyway, the
all right, I'm gonna stuck in my head for the rest of the podcast.
Well, we've been talking about Ireland anyway. But he said, remember, like, oh, your AR-14s aren't going to do anything against our drones and like jets or something. That general effect, while he was still campaigning.
Yeah, he was openly threatening the American people with airstrikes as a candidate.
Yeah.
We that's a conversation we got to have on another episode about, like, we've talked about Boog
we should
a
have
little
a
bit.
Full episode on this. We should.
That's what we should. Like, we've talked about Boog before, but I think we really need to have a good conversation. We need to get Christopher on, Chris Sullivan on. We need to get Chris Sullivan on and have a conversation about that and about the government,
Wolverine's patch,
right? So we got the hearts and minds thing that we have to deal with, and the government dropping bombs on U.S. cities, going after quote domestic terrorists and resistors and insurgents and what's the other word? Seditionists. I think was the word I read, but that's another conversation. We got to have a. We got to have that. We got to have that conversation when we're ready to get canceled.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we're ready to get droned, I think actually is when we. I mean, I've been ready to get droned for years, man. I've just been expecting it, and I actually just told Lindsay because it snowed here, and as I came walking back from the store earlier, I realized that there are footprints. There are footprints through the snow that are clearly from my neighbor, who's downstairs from me, taking her garbage out and around the building and back. But then there's these footprints that don't make sense, where they walk out into the yard and just stop and like sit there and then turn back at a weird angle and come back again. And then there are two more kind of just outside of where everything's trampled behind my back door that also don't make sense. And they are they're a large shoe imprint. So they're not my downstairs neighbor. They're not the little chick that lives downstairs from me. And I'm like, I've been getting this feeling that I'm being checked up on repeatedly lately. And historically, I haven't been wrong when I get feelings like that. So I'm pretty sure they're monitoring me pretty hard. And Chris, I'm sure they're monitoring you pretty hard, whether you've noticed or not. I can almost guarantee that that's what's happening.
Tonight, when I drove my son back to drop him off at his mom's, I didn't say anything to him, but yeah, we were followed most of the way from my house all the way up to where the drop off point is, and then I got picked back up as my daughter and I were leaving Toma, heading home. They're out there.
Yep. All right, let's good segue. Good segue to the next article. We're going to cover an op-ed in the Washington Examiner.
Oh God.
Called "How to Fix Our Domestic Terrorist Problem." It's
Send bachelors and come heavily armed.
It's exactly what you think.
Oh, fix this dick, lapdog boy.
Kevin Carroll wrote it. I have no idea who Kevin Carroll is. I'm not going to look him up because I don't care. But domestic terrorism, a phenomenon formerly associated with left-wing groups such as Weather Underground, Black Liberation Army, and the Puerto Rican FALN separatist, has returned with blood in its eyes and on its hands. We saw 5 dead in the January 6th attempted coup d'etat. We saw possible assassination plots against both former Vice President Mike Pence and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. We saw coercion designed to prevent certification of President Biden's electoral college victory. We now see the Capitol necessarily secured behind razor wire, but we also see Republican members of Congress trying to sneak guns onto the House floor. One even called for violence. It's time to confront these Pushettes.
Wait a second. They called what happened back in January a
coup d'etat. Yes. I've also seen it called an insurrection. I've seen it called
I've heard insurrection. I've heard
a seditious act.
I actually have heard that one person who was arrested was actually formally charged with federal treason.
There was another person that was charged, and in his FBI file showing a picture of him inside the Capitol building, it's actually an altered meme and not an actual photo, because the painting in the background is that black big dick porn guy whose name I cannot recall. So.
Oh, it's fucking. But I mean,
that's great.
The thing is like we're seeing this, right? We're seeing this reaction to the worst insurrection ever. We're seeing this from like people like AOC, who wasn't even there. She wasn't in the building. She was in a completely different building. It's something.
But she almost died, Andrew. She could have died.
Yeah,
and she made one of her aides take her shoes off and give them to AOC because AOC was wearing heels.
Yeah, so she could run.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, this
she's
like, I'm just gonna abandon you.
From it.
Screw you. Yeah, and she's in a building that's like a good distance away from where anything happened. It was never breached. Nothing else.
Across the square, across the road.
They tried to kill me and blah blah. So, and we're seeing all of this crap.
Alexandria Ocasio-Smollett.
Yeah, exactly. But we're seeing all of this stuff happen, right? And we laugh about it. But the reality is what they're doing between this and the media op-eds.
It's all propaganda.
This is propaganda. They are setting up to go. Well, clearly these anti-government types can't be trusted. Clearly they're really violent and they're insane and they're going to kill us all and we need to stop them. This is their setup for this.
Oh yeah, it's all
planned. It's all so that people, when they finally start fucking hitting us with Hellfire missiles, they can be like, well, but you know, they were terrorists. So,
all right, and Democrats.
If you really look at it from that perspective, this whole thing, this whole idea of domestic terrorism and what their proposed response is to it was all set up under W. with the Patriot Act.
Yep.
Every last bit of it.
NDAA, yeah.
Yep.
And Reagan. Reagan had some.
And Reagan.
Some stuff.
But I mean, the bulk of it is under the Patriot Act.
So, but Democrats such as Attorney General designate Merrick Garland and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer should use their executive and legislative power over the next 23 months to do the following 5 important things. First, bring the heaviest felony charges possible on as many participants in the insurrection as the Justice Department can identify and believe it can confidently convict. We ruthlessly hunted down the foreign terrorists after the September 11, 2001 attacks and must do the same to their domestic equivalents. Further prosecution is possible under the federal felon in possession of a firearm statute.
You're not supposed to be able to magically make somebody a felon and then also charge them with a felon in possession of a firearm, because they weren't a felon when they possessed a firearm.
But they will try in every way, size, shape, and form to make that stick, just because it means that they get the dangerous people.
Yes.
I'm going to let you go through the rest of this list, and then I have something to say.
Yeah. So. All right. Second, this is my favorite one. Make fire and police departments that receive federal grants have their members sign commitment not to engage in acts to overthrow the government.
You gotta promise real hard, guys. Real hard.
God.
We gotta be able to trust you. So I've got this. How cross your heart, hope to die thing. It's gonna be great.
How McCarthyist is this?
Oh yeah. Have you or anyone you know been involved in civil insurrection?
Yeah, prosecute any who subsequently violate their oath. We could also cut or suspend federal funding to departments that fail to introduce these measures. It's what we're doing to universities that receive federal grant money and then promise to the contrary, allow communist Chinese to walk off with export-controlled intellectual property paid for by the American taxpayers.
What about
Export control is a load of horse shit too, by the way.
Yeah, it is. But what about, the whole, White House was funded and supported potentially by the Communist Chinese Party. So
shh, we don't talk about that.
Ugh.
Third, do not worry about.
Don't worry about him.
Yeah. Third, do not worry about Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. Rather than ban extremist chatter through government censorship or private deplatforming, use radical chat rooms as honeypots, as FBI-led joint terrorism task forces have done with violent radicalized Islamists since 2001.
Oh my God! No one's thought of this
draw
before.
Out those of our
fucking
fellow
genius.
citizens who are willing to attack our nation.
Holy shit! This man deserves a medal. He has come up with something literally no intelligence service has ever thought of before.
Oh,
what a unique idea.
Oh my God, no. Are you kidding? Everyone fucking knows this shit, man.
Okay, wait. This is another really good point right here, right? Fourth, use the supremacy of federal law to ban militias beyond the National Guard. There is
the National Guard's not a fucking militia.
The National Guard is a militia. It's a professional army.
There is simply no longer any room for armed forces not answerable to the law.
Firstly, ignore all law. Secondly, eliminate all military not answerable to the law.
Oh my goodness.
So,
okay. For crying out loud.
We're not a militia. We're not a militia. We're a gun group.
Yeah, we're an Arco-Syndicalist collective.
We're a shooting club.
We're an Arco-Syndicalist
cool
collective.
Patches?
Each one of us takes turns. But no, so
get in the barrel, Christopher. It's your turn.
No, so here's the thing that I want to say though. The fact that the Q-tards, and fuck you if you believe that shit, you're a Q-tard. Go fuck yourself. You're a mental fucking midget, and I don't care if Facebook wants to ban me for saying it. You're a mental fucking midget. Second of all, what this means, what this should say to people who are Q-tards, people who are still alive, like thinking that magically.
Hold on. Okay, hold on. I know where you're going with that. We have to wait.
Right.
Okay, because this gets even better.
I don't like it when you say that. God damn it.
Every time, man. Every time. I think that there's no way.
Two paragraphs. Fifth, right? This is the fifth point. Add domestic terrorism as a predict to the material support for terrorism statute, including its civil liability provisions. This will provide new means of successful prosecution and gradually increase deterrence against domestic terrorists.
No,
hold on. Okay, hold on. I will mute you both if you don't let me do this last paragraph. All right. This is the guy talking, Kevin Carroll. Okay, he is okay. His little bio at the bottom says he's served as senior counselor to the Secretary of Homeland Security and chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, and as a CIA and Army officer in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Yemen. Okay.
He's an agency prick, is he?
Yes. This is the last paragraph of this op-ed. I woke up in my Manhattan apartment as a Wall Street law firm associate on September 12th, 2001, worrying how America would stop the next attack. I woke up as a combat veteran in my suburban Washington, D.C. house on January 7th, 2021, equally worried.
Struggling so hard, guys.
But I will also remember what helped America last time. We defeated Al Qaeda and could do the same to the fascist thugs who attacked our democracy last month. but only if we take similarly hard measures against the enemy within.
Defeated Al-Qaeda. Right.
Dude, would you like to hear from someone who's actually a veteran of fighting Al-Qaeda about how we defeated Al-Qaeda? I mean, come on. Are you fucking kidding me? Al-Qaeda ain't fucking defeated. They ain't never going to be defeated. ISIS isn't going to be, like, the reality is they're not supposed to be defeated.
No.
That's not the goal.
Especially when you're talking about an asymmetrical opponent like that. They won't be defeated. Because every time...
It isn't even just that they're asymmetrical. It's that literally we don't want to defeat them, because if we defeat them, then there's no excuse for the military buildup. It's still got to exist. True. It's, oh my Christ. Okay.
It's the enemy exists, so we must build up the military, and because we must build up the enemy must exist. Round and round and round and round.
Jason, can I say where I was going?
Yes, I know where you're going. Yes.
So what this should tell you, if you are a Q-tard or you are one of those Trump supporters, the people who believed in storming the Capitol and decided that that was a good enough insurrection, but you didn't want to go so far as to show up armed or do anything, too destructive or too obviously insurrectionist or anything like that, right? Too revolutionary. These people are willing to still label you a domestic terrorist and an insurrectionist and a traitor to the United States because of what you did when you didn't bring guns, when you didn't do any of this. What that should tell you is it is an all or nothing game here.
Yep.
Oh, look at that fucking fruit. Not that there's anything wrong with being gay, right? I'm not disparaging gay people. I'm saying he's a fruit in a very insulting way intentionally, because he looks like a fruit cake, possibly literally, actually, if you really look at him. That's a chunky boy. All right, but anyway, I digress. So what this says is, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter that you didn't bring guns. It doesn't matter that you didn't destroy anything, that you didn't try to kill anybody. And remember, the 5 people who are dead, 4 of those are cops that died of like medical complications, and 1 of them was shot by a fucking cop
in the throat, point
assassinated by a cop.
Yeah, he was hiding behind a door frame and fired as she tried to climb over blockings of doors to a public building.
No, more than that, it wasn't just that he was hiding behind doors. They had like heavy file cabinets and shit barricading those doors.
Yes.
And he supposedly feared for his life so much to shoot like a 110-pound woman who was unarmed in the neck.
Yep.
What a fucking coward.
Yeah. That video was
so
fucking
it's really frustrating. It's a horrible video to watch. But this is what happens when cowards do cowardly things. No, so what I'm saying is you tried to not go to the extremes. You tried to be like just kind of show force, but not something that you felt was going to be illegal or anything else. And what happened was you got maced, you got shot, you got labeled domestic terrorists. You are now being hunted down by the FBI and the NSA. You're being tracked. This is what happened. Why did you think that only half-assing it was going to be okay? The moment you push at them, they're going to come at you with a fucking sledgehammer. This is what is going to happen. You can't half-ass this and think, oh, well, I mean, I was only a little rebellious. They don't care. No. They don't care. They're going to come at you the same way as if you had kicked in that door, fully armed, started shooting, set fire to the fucking Capitol building, and then proceeded to piss on their favorite shoes in the case of AOC. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you didn't do that. They're acting like you did. So why do you still believe that you can gently nudge any of this the direction you want it to go. That's not working. That's never going to work.
It's like this. Okay. If you truly believe that they stole the election, then no election ever is going to be pure again.
No. Yeah, because look at how easy it was.
Right. So the ballot box is out the window. We know about court stacking. So the jury box is out the window.
Yep.
You've been deplatformed from all.
So the soapbox is out.
Right. So you've been deplatformed from Facebook, from Twitter. They completely deleted Parler. Right. I guess Parler's supposed to come back
tomorrow,
sometime next week or something like that. But they've fired the CEO, which means government's involved. Right now they're going after encryption on Telegram and Signal. Right. That's their next target.
Keybase.
Keybase
is owned by Zoom, so
Keybase is owned by Zoom, but they kicked off a deterrence dispensed, right?
Yep,
and a couple
there
other
was
groups.
There was a recent deplatforming on Keybase of a few groups that I may or may not have been associated with.
Right, so there goes your soapbox.
Yep.
I mean, there's only one box left. And
based on the first article that we covered, they're after that real hard right now.
No. So,
well, right, because they know, right, to quote JFK, right, those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable.
Yep. We are reality is around the world.
Yeah, the reality is that what's happening is that they are taking away every possible avenue for anyone to try and go, well, I can still believe in the system because I still have this. I can still maybe do this. Maybe I can bring about change this way. Maybe I can bring about change this way. And what you're seeing is, as you watch this, is you're watching the collapse of political discourse. You're watching the collapse of any kind of ability to dissent. And it's something that I have a feeling, being a historian and knowing some of the histories of countries that descended into fascist revolutions and communist revolutions, and what you're going to see in 100 years, assuming that things get fixed or taken back or altered in any way, what you're going to see is that this is looked back the same way. Is, well, obviously they took away everybody's ability to try and dissent, and they did this, and they just got steadily more and more oligarchical and steadily more of a police state, and then finally people snapped, and then that's when it descended into civil war.
The thing is, I don't think, you say 100 years, I don't think it's that far off. I really don't. I I have seen a number of people who were hardcore Trump humpers. You know, they were, as long as Trump is in office, we have a chance, and yada 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 yada.
Well, I'm talking about 100 years for history to look back, like that. It's history looking back, and in 100 years,
I mean, we can't
analyze it and go this.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I agree with all that, and looking at the history and all this. The technology that we have now, the interconnectivity that we have now, put that 100 years on steroids.
Well, yeah.
That's why I said it's not going to be 100 years that they're going to look back. It's going to be 50 years, 20, or 35 years even.
Well, that was the what is it by what was that article the other day? Like, by 2030 you own nothing and you couldn't be happier or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, I don't know. That's stupid.
I mean,
and it's especially when you start looking at like we were talking about people being deplatformed. I have seen a massive rise in the number of private rocket chat servers being that people are advertising as, hey, come and chat on this because you can't be deplatformed. It's owned by a private entity. And you can legally download rocket chats software and everything for free.
Yep, set up your own server.
and there's
Yeah.
nothing anybody can do about it.
Yeah, it's really not so much a program as just an architecture,
Right?
is what it is. So you're able
as
to
you
just
see,
use it.
right?
That's the beauty of decentralized platforms, such
Right.
as like I got us on Library Odyssey,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean that can't be
as
taken.
you see more and more people trying to voice their opinions, their dissensions on quote unquote mainstream platforms. And they're continuously being censored, and they're continuously being kicked off and just being muted. Everybody that dissents with the political left is being muted. Whether you're a conservative, a libertarian, an anarchist, what have you. Anything that's not 10 degrees left of center and up, well, using the horseshoe theory, but you know what I mean.
Well, here's the thing about that. 10 degrees left of center. Like if you're not just left of center, they hate you.
And
right?
that's what I mean about 10 degrees left of center.
Well, no, the left of center, right? That's where the majority of politicians fall. That's where the majority of Americans fall. Is just left of center. And if you're an extreme left, right, you're fodder. You're a useful idiot to most of them.
Yep.
And like you see with Biden, like completely dismissing the BLM and Antifa and all that other stuff. So, I mean, if you don't fit in that 10% triangle just left of center, then you're just your fodder.
Yeah, and the thing that always amazes me about the people who are truly leftists and hardcore communists and stuff is that these people who are communists, these people who are the true leftists, are all convinced that after their glorious revolution, right, they're all going to get to be artists or make paper mache butterfly
Sorry, comrade,
sculptures
the commune already
for a
has
living.
An artist. Go dig potatoes.
Yeah. And I'm like, but if you look at the history of any communist country, I mean, look at Cambodia, for instance, where the artists and the intelligentsia were the ones who got fucking murdered and then driven out. The survivors got driven out into the fields to go work the fields. In the Soviet Union, nobody talks about Soviet era art for a reason. Like, that's not really a thing. Nobody's like, oh gosh, the artwork of the Soviet era of, no one talks about that. There is a reason no one talks about
there's this joke I used to make with my buddy Ryan Butcher, and it was like we used to joke about a meme based economy. Right.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. I want to make memes for money, for food.
No, technically, I mean, I would argue that we're heading that direction with Dogecoin, because Dogecoin is a meme unto itself. It's a meme that has become currency. And man, I mean, Snoop Dogg is now a thing.
Doge.
That was cool.
I love that.
Yeah, not only that, but if you have you seen the one tweet from Elon Musk where it's like him holding up like Snoop Dogg, who's holding up somebody else who's holding and it's like 5 of them, like as Rafiki, and and the Doge as the fucking Simba at the end of it. Like, it's so great. And like, but we're first of all, this whole ride, man, I'm fucking loving it. But second of all, like, we're heading into something bizarre like that for counterculture. Like, and that's the thing. Like, that's almost the law of absurdism, right? Where I don't know if that's a thing, man. I'm not a sociologist. My mom's a sociologist. I'm not. But it's like this law of absurdism that the more absurd mainstream culture gets, the more absurd counterculture must get in order to distinguish itself and feel rebellious. So the more ridiculous, the more over the top and insane that mainstream culture has to get, the people who don't want to be part of that, the people who want to be an alternative to that, we have to get just steadily more absurd. So it's getting to this point where, like, one of the richest, most successful businessmen in the world is tweeting memes with him as Rafiki from The Lion King. I mean, to promote a cryptocurrency based on a meme about a Shiba Inu, like,
Let's see. Doge is at what is it?
Is that
0.066888. It's up 21.4%.
It's down then from when I saw it earlier.
Yeah. Well, I saw a tweet earlier where somebody had said, like, holy shit, it's worth more than a nickel, an actual nickel. What the hell is going on?
Yeah, that was me.
It's over. It's worth over a nickel right now. 6 cents.
Yep. 6.5. It's down to plus 6.5.
Coin Market Cap has Wall Street Bets on its ticker.
But I mean, it's just
actually looking at the whole crypto market right now. Dogecoin is the only one in the black, or one of the few in the black. Like even Bitcoin is down to 38 after being over 40 yesterday.
Oh. Here's the meme I was talking about. It's if I get it to focus, there we go.
Yeah.
So you have Musk holding up. Is that Gene Simmons?
I have no idea.
I think it's Musk holding up Gene Simmons, who's holding up Snoop Dogg, who's holding up the Doge, and as Simba. And
they need to tweet some more about Dogecoin just to drive my investment up.
Right, and he tweeted with "So it's finally come to this." Oh man, Musk is a trip to follow on Twitter. Like I am so not disappointed in that follow.
we can segue on that. On Musk. Nevada bill would allow tech companies to create governments.
What?
Yes. You remember? Okay. You remember the late 1700s, 1800s, early 1900s? There was like the railroad camps, the lumber camps, right? The coal mining towns, things like that, right? They were company towns.
Yeah, I'm same
sort of thing. Same sort of thing with tech companies.
Okay.
But it's a bill out of Nevada. Planned legislation to establish new business areas in Nevada would allow technology companies to effectively form separate local governments. Democratic Governor Steve Sisolak announced a plan to launch so-called innovation zones in Nevada to jumpstart the state economy by attracting technology firms. Las Vegas Review-Journal. Okay, the zones would permit
what could possibly go wrong?
The zones would permit companies with large areas of land to form governments carrying the same authorities as counties, including the ability to impose taxes, form school districts and courts, and provide government services.
This should already exist. West Virginia has dealt with this for a very long time with the coal towns. West Virginia coal towns, where like almost entire counties are effectively owned by a single company.
Yeah. Athens, right? The Battle of Athens. Right? Wasn't that originally a coal town?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, there's I mean that whole area, Pennsylvania too. Pennsylvania had a lot of coal towns.
Yeah, here on the West Coast we had a lot of logging towns up in Oregon, the California foothills,
a lot of gold mining towns.
Yeah, gold mining towns too.
Yeah, you see that in Alaska. I mean, even in the state, the towns, when you see advertised like, oh, entire town for sale, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
that's not everybody moved out and sold their property and one person bought it all. It was a company town that is now for sale.
Yeah, like plantation type thing. Same thing.
Hey, bring me one, Lindsay.
She can't hear you. Has headphones on. The measurement, the measure to further economic development with the quote alternate form of local government has not yet been introduced in the legislature. Sisolak pitched the concept in the State of the State address delivered January 19th. The plan would bring in new businesses at the forefront of, quote, groundbreaking technologies without the use of tax abatements or other publicly funded initiative packages that previously helped Nevada attract companies like Tesla.
The obvious,
Yeah.
Man.
Sisolak named Sisolak named Blockchains LLC as a company that has committed to developing a smart city in the area east of Reno after the legislation is passed. The draft proposal said the traditional local government model is, quote, inadequate alone to provide the resources to make Nevada a leader in attracting and retaining businesses and fostering economic developments in emerging technologies and industries.
Something else that might just be a little bit of a roadblock for these companies wanting to make Nevada a leader might be that 85 to 90% of the state is owned by Washington, D.C.
Yeah, by the Bureau of Land Management.
Yeah, well, and the thing that really makes me laugh the hardest here about this whole thing, this just made me keep shaking my head, is so what you're saying is that allowing businesses to simply innovate freely without the interference of you is the best way to encourage innovation.
It's funny you should say that. But yeah, I mean, this is.
But haven't we been saying forever that there's only one thing government does better than the private sector, and that's literally kill their own people?
Strangle innovation, yeah.
I mean, over the 20th century, government was directly responsible for at least 150 million dead. Private industry couldn't even dream to match that.
Well, at least not until the Terminators took over.
Well,
but
yeah.
I mean, we can go on about this being peak and cap and all that other stuff, but
the sad thing is it has to be government mandated to be peak.
That's the thing. Like, I mean, to compare this to the old logging towns, which is that's what I'm familiar with, so that's what I'm going to associate it with. But the old logging towns here on the West Coast, they had the company would own the property, would own the town, and then people would move there, and the company would rent them a house or supply them a house. And then there were company stores that were owned by the company. The company brought in teachers to run the company's schools for the kids of the people that were logging for them. And that's essentially what it was. It was the company owned everything, and sometimes the company didn't even pay you money. The company actually paid you in company script, which is worthless outside of company grounds. So you could only spend money at the company store. Like you couldn't take that, outside the company land to the 7-Eleven.
Well, depending. Right? I mean, it's a lot of it was that it depends on if people outside the company land are willing to.
Yeah, willing to.
Well, and this whole thing is laid out very nicely in the song 16 Tons. I don't know if you guys remember
this
song.
Yep.
I owe my soul to the company
store. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
But I mean that the thing is, yeah. It's and like most sea shanties, it's sung best by people with Irish accents. Just
yeah.
But anyway, no. This though, I mean, it makes perfect sense that happened.
Yeah.
Let's say that it makes perfect sense that that happened, and that is in fact a very capitalist way to do things, because I am not only, if I am like, I have a resource, right? I have a resource. I have lumber in the middle of nowhere. There are no roads. There are no towns. There's nothing to get anything out there, right? Mm-hmm. It's all up to me to ship everything out there. I'm the only one with the resources to do that. Mm-hmm. I need people there to harvest that resource. So what do? I build houses and go, hey, look, you got a place to stay. I build stores and I say, hey, look, I will ship goods in. I'm not going to just hand them to you.
Yeah.
But here's goods, and then you can buy them so you can feed yourself. You can do these things. I'm building a store. I'm building this. I'm building that. I'm doing all these things to encourage people to come work for me in an environment that at the time
it's like Google, right? Google has a big problem because of the prices in Silicon Valley are so high that people can't really live there. Right. So Google built an apartment complex.
Oh, even here, Noah's Ark, the largest water park complex in the world. Mm-hmm. Noah's Ark here in the Wisconsin Dells has its own housing, because otherwise it was really hard to get people to come just work for a summer, because obviously they can only operate during a summer and then just leave again. So they have their own housing.
What? People don't want to do water slides when it's negative 15-degree wind chill?
Imagine
Not
that.
outside. Fuck that.
Not outside. Yeah,
Pussies.
it's
Pussies.
Frostbite.
Well, there's a reason why, in that same vein, there's a reason why when you go to places like the Great Wolf Lodge or the Kalahari, which are both also in Wisconsin Dells, they house their workforce, the bulk of their workforce, in their hotels.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so they block off about 10 to 15% of their rooms for company investment.
Yeah,
So,
they.
right.
I mean, that is a thing that makes sense. If you are a business, that's fine. It makes sense. There are lines.
Yes.
Yes.
Zone requirements would include applicants owning at least 78 square miles of undeveloped, uninhabited land within a single county, but separate from the city, town, or tax increment area. Companies would have at least $250 million and plans to invest an additional $1 billion in their zones over the next 10 years. The zones would initially operate with an oversight of the local counties, but would eventually take over county duties and become independent governmental bodies. The zones would have a 3-member supervisory board with the same powers as county commissioners. The businesses would maintain significant control over the board membership. The governor's economic development office did not respond to questions about the zones on Wednesday.
I just have to I have to wonder here, and I mean I will.
I know what you're saying, and I have some serious love-hate with this also.
Well, not only that, but I will admit that I'm not super familiar with a lot of laws establishing townships and governing certain things. But is there a reason they can't do this now? Like if I had, right, if I'm a multi-million dollar corporation, right, and I bought 100 square miles.
Say you won that, $1.5 billion lottery ticket.
Or the 3.8 when it was like 3.8 billion, right?
Yeah.
And I bought 100 square miles of land to just set up stuff on. Mm-hmm. And I paid for the road construction, and I paid for road maintenance, and I built all the buildings, and I built the store, and I did all these things. Is there a law that says I can't?
I think
all of those things.
I think law enforcement would really only be the issue right there, right? Rather the ability to enforce law. Like you could enforce your private property rights.
I have to disagree with you on that because all the railroads have their own private law enforcement.
Yeah, there's private security.
Yeah, but those
are actual police departments.
Yeah, those exist as part. Yeah, that's the baron towns, the rail barons, same sort of thing.
Yeah,
right. But those exist at behest of the federal government because,
right,
the national security part of railways and all that stuff.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering, like, I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, but is there actually anything that says that you can't do that? Like, if you already had that money,
I don't think so.
I don't think there's anything that's actually stopping you.
Well, you could even look back at things like that private town that racial inequality private town that they wanted to set up in Georgia. I don't know if you guys remember that story.
Yeah, it wasn't a private town. They bought 20 acres and built their own town.
Right. Well, that would make it a private town. I mean, they bought 20 acres. They built their own town. They were making their own entity, so to speak, that would eventually, of course, be absorbed into the government. But I mean, essentially what they did is they built their own town and said, here, this is what we're going to do. And that's that. There was nothing to stop them from doing it.
Yeah. See, that's where I'm thinking about this. And I'm like, the only real change is that essentially what this says is, well, but if you do this, you also get to tax them and keep tax money. To which my response is
that's probably the big deal, is because if these operate as counties, if they would operate as their own counties, you got to enforce like state taxes, right, and federal taxes. I know Nevada doesn't have a state income tax, but they have state sales taxes, and there's still federal taxes on top of that.
Oh yeah, which would mean that if you're a private entity and it's a private company and it's private land and you're selling stuff for store credit that people are earning for working for you, you don't have to charge taxes for it.
Yes.
And don't have to pay taxes for it. Because that's technically part of their income. Oh, I see what's going on here now. It took me a minute. I had to work through it, but I'm starting to see what's going on here. This actually isn't for businesses. This is for the government.
Yes.
And
they're using business innovation to increase the tax revenue in the state.
Motherfucking subterfuge. All right?
Yes.
This, you little sneaky fucking bastards. Almost got me. You almost got me. And then
we figured out what you're fucking
here it is. We skipped right over the line. Innovation zones in Nevada to jumpstart the state's economy by attracting technology firms.
Yep, nope. I'm seeing. I see. We got your fucking number. We got your fucking number. We see you, you little shits. No, I get it now. Because if they're a government, they're obligated to forward X amount of money off to the state that they collect.
Yep.
You got
to kick money up to Uncle Tony.
I get it now.
For your little corner that you're selling.
Yep. This is a mob op. Okay, I'm getting it. I'm seeing it now.
On that note, Biden tells federal bureaucrats to approve regulations with benefits that are, quote, impossible to quantify.
What?
Yes.
Hold on. You've got to read it before you get to know what's in it.
No. It goes even further than that.
It's worse than that.
I know it is, but I'm just saying.
With Uncle Donald, there was the whole every new regulation passed, you have to delete an old regulation or whatever, right?
Right.
Biden that was creepy Uncle Joe. He said, let's create twice as many regulations.
Yes. Create regulation for the sake of creating regulation.
Just so that you have more regulation, because we have to regulate the regulations that we're using to regulate regulations.
Yes, they're literally they're literally regulators mounting up.
Mount up.
Okay, President. No, I'm gonna have that one in my head.
Regulators.
Yep. And now, not only are you going to have it stuck in your head, you're going to have it stuck in your head by a white guy Wisconsin accent. Enjoy.
Yeah. I'm trying to work. Creepy Uncle Joe is on the streets trying to consume.
trying to consume, and he's just going sniffing.
President Joe Biden has moved swiftly to rev up regulatory state by weakening oversight and effectively ending a reality-based assessment of the cost and benefits of federal regulation. It may have gone largely unnoticed amid a fury of executive orders Biden has signed since taking office less than 2 weeks ago, but a January 20 memo from the White House to the, quote, heads of executive departments and agencies outlines a regulatory framework that will empower federal bureaucrats to count unquantifiable benefits when weighing the potential impact of new regulations.
Unquantifiable benefits. Translation. We benefit, you don't.
Yes. Specifically, Biden instructed those officials to revamp their regulatory review process to, quote, promote public health and safety, economic growth, social welfare, racial justice, environmental stewardship, human dignity, equity, and the interest of further generations. The memo
there's a few things that are mutually exclusive in that statement.
The memo also states that the new regime, quote, serves as a tool to affirmatively promote regulations. I wonder that the state states that the new regime, quote, serves as a tool to affirmatively promote regulations.
So they want to promote a negative thing.
Yeah.
If you take a negative thing and say it positively,
it doesn't.
Then maybe it won't sound so negative.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the negative benefits are, as long as it has a positive benefit for something in that memo.
Hang on. Before you go, Andrew, collect your thoughts.
Yeah, okay.
Anybody else having hang on?
Yeah.
Anybody else having some serious like Robin Hood Men in Tights vibes going here? Maybe if you take a bad thing and say it positively, it won't sound so bad.
Towards the end, Biden's memo says that his administration will alter the Office of Management and Budget's rules regarding regulations, quote, to ensure that the review process fully accounts for regulatory benefits that are difficult or impossible to quantify. In other words, if a bureaucrat can conceive of a way that the new regulations could advance the goals of racial justice or environmental health, those political aims should be counted as benefits, even if they can't actually be counted.
So we don't know if it will actually provide any measurable benefit, but because we think it can, this is why we're doing it.
Yes.
It makes me feel good that I feel like I'm doing something to benefit this or that. Therefore, we're going to do this, even though it's going to be a market problem for the vast majority of people.
I just.
All right.
Let's hang on. No. This is so Orwellian.
Yes.
It boggles my mind because, first of all, let's preface this. We're gonna talk about Snowball for a minute. If you've read Animal Farm, you know who Snowball is.
Yep.
Who could turn black into white. Right? He was a brilliant talker when he was arguing some difficult point. He had a way of skipping from side to side and whisking his tail, which was somehow very persuasive. It also mentions, like, when he says, "You did not suppose surely that there was ever a ruling against beds. A bed merely means a place to sleep in. A pile of straw in the stall is a bed properly regarded. The rule was against sheets, which are a human invention." This is doublespeak, to quote 1984. This is doublespeak. He says that they are going to count unquantifiable benefits.
Yes.
What is another term? What is a synonym for counting? Is it to quantify, perhaps?
I believe that is.
So what they're literally saying in non-double speak is they are going to count the uncountable things.
Yes. Hold on.
Yes.
It gets better, of course.
Don't say that. No. This is bad enough as
okay. This is a quote from Clyde Wayne Cruz, the vice president of the Competitive Enterprises Institute. He says, quote, "The aim is to put weight on the scales of whether or not to regulate such that the answer will always be in the affirmative, replacing market operations and civil society with government in the pursuit of a range of non-quantifiable goals, even without legislation from Congress."
Well, yes, I agree with that statement completely. I don't think he meant it the way that I read that plainly.
No.
But I absolutely agree with that statement completely. That is exactly the goal. Yes.
Yes. Their goal is to absolutely replace anything and everything per the Communist Manifesto. Anything and everything that could and should and inevitably will need to be regulated by market forces with government constraint.
Yes.
Yeah, here's the thing. Here's the thing that you need to understand. You need to understand about the ideal of communism is the ideal of communism does away with any idea of a medium of exchange.
Yes.
Any idea of a medium of value, any kind of value representative thing, it does away with that, because what it says is, well, you don't need it because the ideal of communism is a post-scarcity society. Star Trek. So this is the idea that communism seeks to achieve, is a post-scarcity society where value is meaningless. If I need a thing, I can have a thing. If I want a thing, I can have it. I work. It turns everything into barter for labor, and yet not barter for labor because some fucking idiotic mental gymnastics that it's not a barter for labor because, but you contributed and you were expected to, and it makes no sense. But this is what this is trying to kind of go for here.
Yes.
Is
All
say that you don't get to quantify anything. No. It's all about feelsies.
Yes. Okay. Do I need to say the line again?
No, please don't. Please don't.
Okay.
Like, I know that our viewers are and our listeners are waiting with bated breath here for you to say it. Like, they're doing the Bart Simpson thing.
They're starting to cringe just a little bit every time I say it. Yeah.
They're doing the say the line, say the line.
All right. Biden's directive builds on a 1993 executive order issued by then President Bill Clinton, which altered a Reagan-era directive ordering federal agencies to issue regulations only when the benefits exceed costs. Clinton shifted the standard to say that the benefits of proposed regulations must only justify the costs. Biden's memo suggests that his administration is preparing to inflate the definition of benefits to the point of making any cost-benefit analysis effectively worthless.
Well, yeah, because the moment that a CBA becomes entirely subjective, it's because it is entirely subjective. You can make it say anything. And here's the thing, right? Like, I run a business. And when I'm doing cost benefit analysis, I need to look and I need to try and quantify the value of, say, a new customer. Give it a specific dollar value. There is a dollar value to my bottom line of X amount. And in my particular business, I have a value for that, for how much that benefits me, one new customer. So I can say, well, if I do X amount of advertising and it brings in, and it is projected to bring in even X amount of customers, I either break even or I make money or whatever, and therefore it was worth it. Right. So, because if you get even $150 more than you put in out of advertising, you still made money. That was still worth it. Right. That's still worth it. I made $150 more than I would have without it. What they're essentially trying to do is they're trying to say, but you don't need to do that. You don't need to assign values to things. No. It's about the intangibles.
Yeah.
It's about the things
it's about the environment. It's about the racial inequality. It's about the equity. It's about the fairness.
It's about the things that make everybody feel good.
This is literally how the Soviet Union started out. With its regulations. Now, the irony is that is not how the Soviet Union ended. Soviet Union ended very much quantifying everything. Everything was quantifiable.
But think about how long it took them to get to that point to realize that they had to quantify everything. And that's the thing that, especially those on the radical left that decide that socialism and, in effect, communism are the way to go, think about things. They think about the hierarchy of social construct.
Right, but what you need to remember, though, is that what they were quantifying what they were categorizing, rather, as unquantifiable benefits, the Soviet Union, were benefits for the state, not for the individual. So, like, look at the easiest example that I can come up with is Soviet tanks, right? A T-34 is a garbage tank. Largely, like it has its benefits, but with its manufacturing, it was kind of garbage. Huge gaps in the welded armor, all these other things. Ergonomics. What are ergonomics? Who the fuck cares? Do your job. Stop arguing. Like, this was the philosophy, the Soviet design philosophy of things. So for the individual, it was miserable and it was terrible, and it was just dog shit. But for the state, the amount of fire a crew of a T-34 could deliver on the enemy and the amount of disruption on the battlefield a T-34 could provide, well, that was one of those important unquantifiable benefits. So because of that...
That's a risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah, you could, to quote Rat Race, one of my favorite quotes from the movie Rat Race, yeah, you could die, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. That was the Soviet... attitude was they didn't care. They didn't care about the individual soldiers. Yeah. They didn't care about the individual tankers.
It's all about what they could get out of them. What's
Yeah.
what's the benefit to us? What's the benefit to the collective?
To the collective, what matters. Yes, exactly. And that's what this is really going to, is it doesn't matter what it does for individuals and how negatively it affects individuals. What matters is what the state perceives as a benefit to the collective as a whole. And don't forget, I mean, I hate to bring up Star Trek again, but don't forget that in Star Trek, very frequently, ironically, hive minds like the Borg and there's the locust people and things that disregard the value of the individual are seen as evil for a reason, right? They're evil. Yeah, I love the Ferengi, man. I freaking love the Ferengi. They're my favorite race. Like, I'm like, yes, I would do well with Ferengi. Except for one of the rules of acquisition is a deal is a deal is a deal unless it's the Ferengi. Or rather, unless it's not Ferengi. Sorry, unless it's not with a Ferengi. So the problem is that when they say what they're saying, they don't mean for you individually as a person. What they mean is, what are the unquantifiable benefits for the collective as a whole, what they view as the collective. And remember that they're labeling a whole bunch of us as domestic terrorists, which puts us outside of the collective.
Right.
Yes.
So they don't care what it does for people that they do not view as part of the collective.
The bee pigs, they see your freedom as a threat to their existence.
Yeah, they do.
That has become one of my favorite lines. I post it I say it at least once a day on an article on Wolf when I post it. It's just, I don't know. Some people are hopefully people are going to get it eventually.
I mean, the problem is, I hope that too, but the problem is that the reality is that what history teaches is that the minority gets it. Mm-hmm. But for a lot of other people, it takes a very, very long time. I mean, when the Nazis took over and there were a lot of people who saw it for what it was, it even took Sophie Skoll, one of my personal absolute number one heroes,
badass
a
little chick,
girl
man.
that I will always worship as a hero. She's absolutely one of my personal heroes. And not only because she was articulate in an amazing way and she was intelligent, but her spirit was incredible. But it took her even a while to see what her brother's point was, right? Mm-hmm. Her brother saw the Nazis for what they were right out of the gate, but it took her a while to see it. And then once she saw it, then she changed her attitude. But by the time she changed her attitude, the Nazis were already so powerful that she didn't have a very long operational survivability before they eliminated her.
Well, and this goes back to taking that into consideration is just like that. I mentioned a friend of mine, I think it was last week, who recently started to see how corrupt everything is at the federal level and how that was really difficult for her to, come to grips with, because her entire life she spent, believing in the benevolence of the state and believing that everything is just at the state level or at the federal level or what have you. And when she started to see things for what they really were, it's like she's having a hard time coming to grips with, okay, how do I square this with myself and come to understand that this is the way things are and what do I do about it?
And I mean, if you're not there yet, right? If you're not truly an anarchist yet and things like that, that's fine. Like, everybody has their own kind of journeys, right, through life. And, and one of my favorite things to go back and to have listened to when he was still doing it, Nick's now defunct Enemy of the State, Danny Spotstash, when he was doing Enemy of the State, he always interviewed people and he asked them, like, what led you to become an anarchist? And listening to those and listening to all these people talk about their journeys to become an anarchist, you realize that it's so experiential. Like, you have to, because of the propaganda that's largely forced down your throat, you really have to see behind the curtain enough to believe that what you're seeing behind the curtain is really there. And the sad reality is that what we're going to see in the next few years is that people will not believe you until it is too late for them to avoid what is going to happen.
We only got about 20 minutes left, and I got like 2 articles left. We can jam through one, and then the other one will just be quick because dude is badass. But the COVID recession may kill more Americans than COVID-19 does.
Duh.
The economic effects of COVID-19 could prove deadlier than the disease itself. So says the just released research, which concludes that the total lives lost to the virus in the U.S. May far exceed those immediately relatable to the acute COVID-19 critical illness. The recession caused by that pandemic can jeopardize population health for the next 2 decades. The new working paper by authors at Duke University, Harvard Medical School, and the Johns Hopkins University Business School focused on almost instantaneous unemployment of the millions of workers in March and April. The unemployment rate jumped from nearly the lowest in 50 years to the highest since the current measurement began in 1948. While it has come down, it is still at its highest rate since the recovery from the 2008-09 financial crisis. The authors wondered how unemployment affects mortality and life expectancy years later. Little research on the question exists, so they can conduct their own analysis using 67 years of data about unemployment, life expectancy, and death rates from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. They were able to separate the effects of the unprecedented 2020 unemployment spikes from other factors that affect mortality and life expectancy. Their main finding, over the next 20 years, 1.37 million more people will die than would have died without the unemployment shock of the pandemic caused, a number that researchers call staggering. They find also that, quote, excessive deaths will be disproportionately affect African Americans. The implied increase in deaths per 100,000 individuals over the next 20 years were 32.6 for African Americans versus 24.6 for white Americans. In all, about 3.2% more people will die in the U.S. over the span than would have died without the spike in joblessness. So, thanks, government. Yeah, I just had to get that one out there because, stupid. Okay, this last article.
I just wanted. I was just thinking.
Waving at the neighbors, social distancing, quarantine.
I mean, that's all I could think of as I'm hearing that is, duh. Because what are people doing when they're quarantined? Right? They're depressed. They're alone. They're broke. People are losing their houses. They're losing their businesses. They're drinking excessively. They're doing drugs excessively.
Let's not like the increasing debt that they're incurring while locked down on credit cards and whatever else.
Not only that,
the eviction memorandums, right? The eviction memorandums.
Just going to say that,
right? I mean, those are coming to an end. What, like next September or something like that? But like that, you're still gonna have to pay that money.
Yep.
Right. At some point in time. So like you're gonna go into debt and you're gonna end up working. Like you can incur $10,000 in debt in a year easily. But paying off $10,000 in debt is not. You can't do that in a year.
Yeah, or most
people can't do that in a year.
A lot of people, what they do who are already paycheck to paycheck, right? And what they do is they come to short-term lenders and then they get a loan and they try and get caught up on some bills and save their place to live and things. But those payments, because their credit is crap, because they haven't been paying things, because they haven't had, they haven't been working much and blah, blah, blah. Their credit is crap. So their interest rate is ridiculously high. They're borrowing $2,500. They're paying back $10,000, right? Or $9,000. So their payments are ridiculously high. They're eating into any future paychecks that they're paying. Well, then what happens is they can't possibly afford that. So they default on that debt that hurts them. Well, now the business that they borrowed money from, that's bad debt for them. So that business posts losses. So then the people who work for that business, they can't make any money. So then they lose their jobs, or, their paychecks are smaller, whatever else. That trickles down. I mean, you wind up with this domino effect that just destroys an economy of nothing but, and we know this from the 2008 housing bubble, when you get a bunch of debt, a huge amount of cheap to obtain debt that can never be paid back, the economy implodes.
Yes.
This is what happens. And this is what we're starting to see already.
Right. I'm telling you, Cloward Piven. But what do I know?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's again, this is the goal. This is hyper communism is the goal. This is the point, to create a post-scarcity society, not because we're actually post-scarcity, but just because you don't have a choice but to deal with the resources that you've been allotted.
Yep. What we need to do is we need to be like Bob. I wish Bob was my grandpa, or I wish I grew up with a grandpa like Bob. But Bob is a barber. Washington barber defies coronavirus restrictions, tells customers to have a shot of whiskey instead of wearing a mask.
Yeah, buddy.
The rebel barber of Snohomish, Washington, won't lay down his favorite tool, scissors, without a fight.
I love it.
Bob Martin,
the rebel barber of Snohomish.
Yeah. Bob Martin, 80. Has been hit with an avalanche of cease and desist letters, nearly $100,000 in fines, and suspension of a barbering license he's held since 1967. Despite threats from local and state authorities, he isn't giving them up. I love this fucking quote so much.
If somebody would create, right, a design of Bob's face and the rebel barber of Snohomish, in like a wanted poster thing, and like slap it on a t-shirt, I would buy the fuck out of that.
I would buy 2 copies.
It would be amazing.
Make a patch too, so I can wear it every day.
Yeah, the rebel barber.
That is
Snohomish.
Let's see. That is a fuck you face right there.
That is a man.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely no fucks what you have.
Lick my balls, Big Daddy. That's what that says.
Quote: does the government not want me to do things? Hitler's government didn't want me to do anything either.
Yep. Quote: I haven't done anything wrong. Nobody has gotten sick, and I'm not gonna let anybody push me around or tell me I can't work. I don't need a license to work, and they can't stop me.
Yeah,
buddy.
Woo! Go Bob.
Martin says his daughter, who has a brain tumor, and both she and his grandsons depend on him, adding that he feels like everybody's grandpa in town. The state of Washington suspended Martin's personal barber license, which he was first issued in 1967, back in May. Martin is the owner of Stag Barber and Styling in Snohomish, and has refused to shut down his business in violations of the state's COVID-19 restrictions. Local regulator
for you, Bob. Good for you.
Yeah, this is an old man. He's been through some shit. He knows some shit, and his attitude is, "Fuck you."
Yes. Local regulators are taking action against Martin's business, including issuing steep fines for every day the barbershop is open, though that hasn't deterred the octogenarian. Quote: we find ourselves in a situation we haven't really faced before. Someone who refused to work with us, refused to comply with the health and safety regulations, and will not partner with us. That is a quote from Christine Anthony, a communications manager for Washington State Department of Licensing. She also said, quote, after we work through our process and procedures, we will explore all potential options in consultation with the AG's office. While the state requires customers and employees to wear masks, Martin asked customers to take off their masks, offering people a tipple instead. Quote, I tell people, if you're worried about germs, I'll give you a shot of whiskey.
Dude, I'm worried about germs constantly. Please, whiskey.
Martin, who does not plan to get a COVID-19 vaccine, warned that anybody who stops him from running is, quote, going to get their blank shot, according to the Red Herald.
Yeah, I love this, man.
Hold on. We have, quote, we have 25 people for our own personal militia to protect their barbershop, he said. They stand guard outside outside there if we ever need them.
Amen, brother.
Fucking Bob.
Yes.
Be like Bob.
Yes.
Wow.
Aspire. We should all aspire to be like Bob, the rebel barber of Snohomish. And in fact, I love that name so much. I may hit up a few of the folk singers that I know and see if I can possibly get a song written about Bob, the rebel barber.
Stag, barber, and styling.
Yes. Yes. Bob, the rebel barber of Snohomish. That is amazing. A couple of my buddies back when I was in high school wrote the ballad of John Brown. And I feel like I would really like to hear a folk song.
Does this not scream fucking Karen to you?
Karen.
Yeah. Is that the one who's like, we're gonna regulate
that's Christine Anthony right there.
Yeah. Fuck that bitch. Yeah, that's a Karen as hell. Like, she may not quite have the haircut, but she's almost there. And you know what? That's the thing.
She's got the way it frames her face. It definitely screams Karen. She just has a little longer than most.
That's the thing, though. What I've always kind of found interesting is that the people who are super pro regulation and pro government,
I should have read this article
slamming on people. They tend to be people who are largely, not entirely, but largely upper middle class, white, people who really think they should be in charge of everyone, who have this super superiority complex, and they'll deny endlessly that they do, but they do have this super superiority complex. And, the interesting thing is that historically, those are also the people who
dogs barking
constantly. Well, they're the people who constantly are super pro-government. They're the people who are endlessly. I mean, going back the Civil War, it was the white upper class in the South who wanted slavery. Going to the French aristocracy, it was the white upper class who wanted to tell everybody what to do constantly. I mean, this is an endless thing, in the French Revolution. It's endlessly.
They're finding him $1,000 a day.
Fuck your $1,000 a day. Yeah,
right.
Fuck it. All right, come and take it.
Dude's 80 years old. He's 80 fucking years old.
Mm-hmm.
He supports his daughter and his grandchild on the income that he makes at his barbershop.
This article.
Fuck your $1,000 a day. Fuck your 100,000 plus in fines. You can lick my sweaty nuts.
Yeah. Let's see. He showed a reporter a gun in his pocket of his jacket hanging near the barber chair. Quote, "You see this? We've got several of them in here. Anybody who tries to stop me from working in here is going to get their expletive shot."
Fuck yes.
Yes.
Amen, sir. Because at this point, this is the only fucking language these people understand, right? This is the language they're trying to speak in. And that kind of was that was kind of where I was going, is that historically over the years, those people, the Karens, what we call Karens now, the hyper authoritarian upper class, are of the opinion, that they know better than everyone else. The only language they speak, because it's the only language they're willing to communicate to anybody in, is violence. That is and force. That is the only language that they know. So the only language to communicate back to them in
is violence.
Is violence and force. That is it.
You must meet the violence of your oppressors with equal force or superior.
I mean, that's the entire point of the Second Amendment of the United States, right? Like the entire point of that is supposed to be that the average person is capable of meeting government's force with equal force, so that government can only maintain compliance through doing things that make sense to everyone. That was supposed to be its spirit. So, as far as I'm concerned, he is a fine fucking American.
Agreed.
Hell yeah. Like, that's the kind of person we should all aspire to be. They're just like, fuck you, make me. Because that is the spirit of the Second Amendment, right? Fuck you, make me.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I was reading something else, but yeah, fuck you, make me. And that's literally.
That sounds like an episode title to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fuck you, make me.
Right,
but I mean, that is what we should all aspire to look at is fuck you, make me. And like I said, earlier with the anti-gun stuff, and fuck you, make me. Mm-hmm. No, you fucking make me, right? You force me to do that, because I guarantee you I will not fucking comply with any of your bullshit until you force me to. And even then, I'm still not going to comply. You're going to have to kill me, motherfucker. Like, that's the way it is. I'm not going to bend to your bullshit. I'm going to just keep quietly doing what I'm doing. I'm going to keep living the way I live, and you are not going to fucking stop me. Plain and fucking simple. And if you have a problem with that, you are welcome to try and come and fucking stop me. Bring it. But you should know, I really do like booby traps.
In Minecraft.
In Minecraft.
one of my favorite emblems I ever made for when I played Battlefield was it's a Claymore mine with like a party hat on going like this, and it's got like confetti coming down. It says surprise.
All right, shoot out your links.
Check out thebeardstruggle.com. Use code InkedAnarchist15. That is InkedAnarchist15. All run together. Beardstruggle.com. You can get amazing, wonderful beard shampoo and conditioner sets. You can get beard oil sets. They smell amazing. They make your beard remarkably soft. They are fantastic. The ladies love it. It's so worth it. They even have a beard straightening comb if you are so inclined. That will help you to tame your beard. Absolutely worth it. Thebeardstruggle.com. And don't forget to check out our boy, David, at popinspatches.com.
He made this wonderful shirt.
You gotta explain the shirt for the people listening.
So the shirt is the Mandalorian helmet printed in a wonderful Hawaiian overlay. It is made by the wonderful people over at Poppins Patches as a collaborative effort between
a Boogalorian.
The Boogalorian, yes.
Yes, the Boogalorian.
And it is made as a collaborative effort between Andrew, myself, and the wonderful people Dave over at Poppins Patches. Last time I checked, they were only $15, so pick yourself up one. And if you have any questions or you just want to tell Dave you love the shirt, just send him an email. He'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, he's on Instagram also.
Yeah, he's on Instagram. He's on Twitter. He's on. I think he's still on Etsy. He's all over the place.
How is he still on Etsy?
They took down all of his Boogaloo stuff and they only left his non-Boogaloo stuff. Also, don't forget Derica's book. Think for yourself.
A critical thinking workbook for beginners, and it is a workbook, guys. There's a bunch of blank pages in there because it's an actual.
You actually have to work at the concept.
Yes.
It is fantastic for homeschoolers. It is a good way to teach Aristotelian logic, syllogisms, the idea of critical thinking and analyzation.
See, Andrew read it and he uses 4-cent words.
I actually haven't read it. I worked with Lindsay actually through it. Fun fact, I went to a private school in high school for a year, and one of my classes in that year was in fact Aristotelian logic. No, it was Aristotelian logic specifically. So
all right. Well, since you mentioned Sophie Shell, I had to look up a quote from her. Such a splendid sunny day, and I have to go. But how many have to die on the battlefield in these days? How many young, promising lives? What does my death matter if by our acts thousands are warned and alerted? Among the student body, there will certainly be a revolt. That was in a letter to her brother.
that's some of her famous last words. And if that doesn't make you tear up, man, that she was 15, right? 15?
Yeah, she was 15 when she was killed on February 18th, or she was arrested February 18th, 1943, convicted of treason 4 days later, and executed by guillotine a few hours after that. She was a member of the White Rose, passive resistance against the Nazis.
Yes. And so, I mean, and Sophie Skoll, always going to be one of my heroes.
Yes.
Absolutely one of my heroes. She was absolutely amazing. And she had 10 times the balls of the majority of these 3%ers and these.
Her and Grandpa Bob would get along.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they collectively, an 80-year-old man and a 15-year-old girl have 3 to 10 times the fucking balls of most of these Q-tards and these 3%ers and these thin blue. I mean, all of these people who claim that they care about liberty and freedom. They had
especially the thin blue liners.
So on that note, I think we're out of time. And the Patriots one, or not the Patriots, the Buccaneers one.
God damn it, Tom Brady! Fuck Tom Brady.
31-9.
Tom Brady.
Fuck Tom Brady. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Later.